Vice President JD Vance is barely 2 weeks into his new role, but questions about the 2028 presidential race are already beginning to swirl. In fact, in a recent interview with Fox News, he was asked if he plans to run for president, and his response was a careful sidestep, saying, quote, "We'll see what happens," end quote. The vice president even defended President Trump's DEI comments after the Washington plane crash, but backtracked to say the president wasn't blaming anybody. Our next report shows how Vice President Vance is softening President Trump's blows one interview at a time.
The Trump-Vance administration is only 2 weeks old, but the 2028 race is already a hot topic. In a recent interview with Fox News, when Vice President JD Vance was pressed about his future ambitions, he chose to remain tight-lipped, saying we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens in 2028. But the way that I think about this is the best thing for my future is actually the best thing for the American people, which is that we do a really good job over the next 3.5 years.
As etched in the American politics, over half of all vice presidents in the U.S. history have sought presidency, and at least 15 have made it to the Oval Office. But 8 of those only got there after a president's death. And Vance, at just 40 years old, is the youngest vice president in decades. His age, popularity, and close ties to Trump make him a natural frontrunner, because the MAGA world sees him as their heir to the movement. But the field could be crowded, and other conservative figures will likely enter the race. A recent poll suggests Vance has an early advantage. The survey conducted from January 22 to 27 asked 453 Republicans who they would support in a 2028 primary. Vance led with 27% of the vote, and right behind him was Donald Trump Jr. at 21% of the votes. Now, even though Trump Jr. has never held office, he still remains a major political figure. He's been a vocal supporter of his father and a power broker within the GOP. While some believe his last name alone could give him an edge, the others question whether he has the political experience to compete. Vance may not be confirming a run, but he's already taking on major issues. During the same interview, he even defended Trump's controversial remarks on a plane crash in Washington, D.C. Trump suggested diversity hiring policies weakened the FAA, and Vance backed him up, saying these policies led to air traffic controller shortages.
The president made very clear that he wasn't blaming anybody, but he was being very explicit about the fact that DEI policies have led our air traffic controllers to be short-staffed. That is a scandal. Thankfully, it's a scandal that the president has stopped.
Vice President Vance then further added that it is important to investigate everything, declaring that the controls did not have enough staffing because several potential people were turned away.
But let's just say the person at the controls didn't have enough staffing around him or her because we were turning people away because of DEI reasons. There is a very direct connection between the policies of the last administration and short-staffed air traffic controllers.
Since the Washington plane crash last week, President Trump has already acted on his concerns. Just after the crash was reported, he signed an executive order rolling back DEI hiring efforts in federal agencies. He also appointed Chris Rochelaw as acting FAA administrator, and the Senate will later confirm a permanent replacement.
I would say the answer is yes. If we find that people aren't mentally competent, you see the language. The language is put out by them. And if you see that, I'm not going to bore you by reading it again, but these are not people that should be doing this particular job. They'd be very good for certain jobs, but not people that should be doing this particular job.
For now, the 2028 race remains in the background. But Vance is playing the perfect role of a trusted soldier. The president and the vice president have a clear strategy. Trump ignites the flame with his fiery remarks, and Vance comes in a day or two later to soften up the blow with fact, compassion, and openness. This has been evident at multiple times now. From defending Trump's order to end birthright citizenship to now saying that the air traffic controllers were non-DEI hires, despite Trump claiming they were. However, what may seem like backtracks are far from it. Vance has mastered the art of showing support for his president without firing from the hip. And it's not just about housekeeping. Vance has stood by Trump on Greenland, deporting illegal migrants to even tariffs. The senator from Ohio is more than just the vice president. He is, in every sense, Trump's most loyal wingman.
We're calling the show Vantage. We hope you like what we put together for you. Touted as the minimum two-way defense from that video. India's neighbors were the first to send the special edition of Vantage live from the White House throughout this week. Yes, Hindu Mandir we're on our way to Tel Aviv. Measure, but it's also the perfect way to drive.
I don't think that
Prime Minister of Bhutan, Sherin Tagwe. Welcome to
60% of the world's
office. Prime Minister Modi did the iron.
we were actually
How are you doing? How do you like? It's been 1 year since that meeting. Iron bars separate you from the outside. Out the vote efforts. Trump had, it says, and at $4.3 trillion. 300 billion by 2030. That's what we need to tackle climate change.